Okay.
Attention, please.
Yo. 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 Yo.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, Leo King, and Rich Lopp here for the Awakening Experience. We are doing the moon card today, ironically, on this new moon in Cancer. What's going on, Rich? How are you doing, brother?
What's up, man? You have a good weekend?
Doing good? I'm doing good, man. You know, I've been just going through the emotions, but I feel like at the same time, the moon card, to me, I think I'm the one who kind of picked this card today. We kind of sometimes help each other, push each other into a card.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's a good card, too, because I kind of feel like here over the past couple of weeks, I don't know about you, but I've been going through kind of a moon. Because, like, whenever I look at that card, one of the first things that comes to my mind, and I don't know where I picked this up, is a period of gestation and change. Kind of like the caterpillar being in the cocoon.
Right.
And it kind of has, like, something similar to the death card, kind of, sort of.
Right.
Where, like, when you're transitioning from one cycle to another, most of us wish that it would be an overnight process, but in actuality, the only way for that to happen is for a tower moment to happen.
I know.
And usually, you're going through this strange, weird, uncomfortable period of changes. And I think the past couple of weeks has really been very moon cardy, if that makes sense.
I 100% agree, because you were saying earlier, you're going to be working out at the gym in your house more, and you're really, you know, whether in life we're dealing with stress, we can run, we can do all these things, but there's that deeper essence that doesn't go away. That's what the moon card reminds me of. It's like when we go through a emotional experience and it just doesn't go away, it still has that. It like reminds me of, you know, I smoke cigarettes, and like I used to smoke inside my bedroom all the time, and like you get that film,
Yeah.
you know, that happens to be on the window. And like you finally Windex it and you're like, kind of brown. That's what the moon card reminds me of, because no matter what, I think we can suppress things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It definitely deals with suppression to me, where it feels like I got to get through this moment. So I'm going to take my emotions, I'm going to shove them in this corner, or even my thoughts. I'm not going to think about it. But eventually, the reason why these little creepy crawlers is a scorpion that's coming out, the wolves that are howling at night, the two towers that are behind this moon. That's what's so wild to me, is it's like you can suppress. It reminds me of the tower card in the sense of the suppression before the tower moment. Like, no, it's going to be okay. Let me just push this down. Eventually, it's going to come out and bite you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hard part about the card, is when's the place, and maybe it's a question that I would love to ask you, is like, when do you think in the manifesting journey that we're all on, or even in the awakening experience, because I feel like when we wake up in this matrix and there's a suppression of the understanding of it, or suppressing the matrix to where we feel good, but then we still have to come back to still fully get out. It's kind of a weird thing, but where's that line to where you have to finally stop suppressing something in your life that's a healthy way, or when's it unhealthy, I guess?
Well, usually I'll tell people, and this may be coming from like an air sign perspective, that like suppressing it until you forget about it is not the end all be all, but I think there's a time and a place for it.
Yeah.
Like especially if you're going through something that just has you distraught, then obviously I will usually advise my clients to take some time and let the water settle. And give yourself some time to be able to swim to the surface and get some air so you can think clearly. And then once the emotional waters have kind of settled a little bit and you can think clearly, most people, the first thing they want to do is just take off running and forget about it. That's
Right.
behind me now. It's over. That's when it starts to get dangerous, because that's when it starts to bury itself underneath your conscious awareness.
Right.
And then it can even like if you bury it and run from it long enough, it can turn into a thought form entity of its own. But I always remind people, I remind people that as soon as you can start to think kind of clearly, that energy is not going anywhere. It's going to require you to pull it up. Okay, now I got to pull this up. I got to sit with it. I got to process through it, see what I learned from it, or whatever the case may be, depending on the situation. But I think as soon as you can feel yourself starting to think clearly and think a little bit more logically, that's when I think personally the appropriate time is to start reflecting, you know?
Well, I think that's a good point, especially because I feel like in this world we live in, it seems to be one that constantly is where because this card's attached to secrets, it's like, how's your day going? Oh, I'm doing good. But really, there's all these other things inside, so we almost want to put on that we're doing good because we don't want to put negative energy to people. And I think that there's times in life where there's a consciousness of like, yeah, maybe it's not the time to be the fucking retard that's causing drama for no reason. You have to check yourself consciously. Yeah. So I think there's the line that you, I think, just brought up is so good about that. Consciously being aware of it can be hard, but there's times when you've got to use that where it's like, am I just being over dramatic? Mm-hmm. Is this really a serious situation? Or has it really been, and I think you can see it in people's eyes. I don't know why. You can really see when somebody's been really beaten down, suppressing their emotions, suppressing the feelings they've been going through. And when you ask them how they're doing, it looks like a deer in the headlights. Like they don't even, it's almost like just like a thought that turns into, I don't even know how you just describe that thought that turned into, but it's like an entity thought of its own that controls somebody. Mm-hmm. And that's what's kind of actually the weirdest part of all the tarot cards is there is the Scorpion coming up. This does deal with entities that can take us over emotionally. It reminds me of parasites, you know, like we don't see them, you know, but they can come into our bodies, you know, and, and I feel like it's emotional created and suppressed related. But, you know, if the opposite is true, where it's like you're in that relationship where you're constantly being yelled at and I don't care if you're a man or a woman, you're being bitch whipped by your partner where you're like, I'm the one who's sorry, just trying to save everything. And you do that for long enough. Are you yourself anymore? I feel like this card can take us completely out of our true self.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can very much relate to that as well, because like one of my, I guess, toxic traits that I've been having to work to get over is I hate sympathy. I hate it. Makes me feel so awkward. I don't like people feeling sorry for me. So I've always been that way. How you doing? Oh, I'm good. Like it's almost killed me. I literally, at one point in my life, I almost starved to death because I was too proud to ask for help. I was too proud to let anybody know that I was struggling. I was sleeping on the streets with no food. At one point in time, I would literally eat like 3 meals a week. And I was losing like 20 pounds a week, and I was on the brink of death. Luckily, some people noticed and would feed me, you know, but like I can very much relate to, you know, do I want to have, you know, cause drama? Do I want people to feel sorry for me? Not really. And if you push that down and suppress it for too long, it can get the best of you. So I've had to learn the hard way to.
Well, I was just saying, you know, you could see it in people, in their eyes, or it's more of like their aura, you know, I would say this is the card that also like depletes your auric field that is used for manifesting in a great way and lowers it the same way that the earth has an electromagnetic field that protects us from radiation from the sun, you know, or solar rays or stuff that's cosmic rays related. We're all dealing with that in our auric field too. We're dealing with these crazy things in this world, stuff like that. But when we start suppressing, you can start seeing it in the auric field of somebody, because this card, when you suppress or you subconsciously try to store things in the garage or in the attic or in the trash too long, right? It's a dump that eventually is going to have to happen. You're going to have to empty that recycle bin some way. And it could be in an unhealthy way. So this card also has to deal with, you know, to me, it deals with the most weird situations though. Like, sure, it could be easy to throw it to being an addict or going on drugs. I think that this card really is just the basics of that. I think it could become much more, should I say, sinister when it's turning into really, they say the Seven of Swords is so bad for deception and cheating and all that. The Moon card is the worst because I feel like it's superly subconsciously happening, where the Seven of Swords has like a plan, at least. Like, I'm going to go do this, and it usually comes out of nowhere. Where this has like I know now why that serial killer became a serial killer. You could see the trail for a long time. And I feel like what maybe makes this card difficult is that it does take help from others, or that reflection that the moon does of our deeper subconscious elements and that's what's hard, because we could put our defenses up with this card too. Like, no, what do you mean there's nothing wrong? And that's just another,
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty much, maybe that's, I don't know, I'm kind of having a revelation right now because, I do have Venus in Pisces. This is the Pisces card, and that's one of the things that I dealt with up until, what is it called? The Saturn return?
Yep.
Yeah, up until like my Saturn return. That's one of the issues that I struggled with the most. Suppressing it, like I said, my whole childhood growing up, I was bullied really, 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 really bad. And I developed this shell of insecurity. I don't want anybody to know that anything is wrong with me. I'd be bullied in school and I would try to hide it. I wouldn't come home and cry to my grandparents, nothing. Suppress.
Right.
And that's it can be very deadly. And
that can be hard.
Yeah, and if you're not energetically aware or conscious, like I was not at the time, you don't know how bad that's eating you up on the inside.
No, I was going to say, because it's weird, this card has to deal with a comfort. And we can be more comfortable in our subconscious, I think, because if I want to take what you just were talking about with being bullied and stuff, like, we try to find a place of comfort no matter what the situation is. Sometimes those comforts are in the most subconscious or suppressed or even repressed ways. But think of the human race right now, right? Like, we don't even know who we are, why we're here, what the fuck's going on, or at least they have sold that to people. I think a lot of us have been waking up, have been realizing the real story here. But think of the humanity is the moon card itself in many ways, of this suppression of like, no, did we come from here? Did we come from there? Why are we here? What's really going on? So when I look at the world today and people think it's crazy, this is the reaction of a humanity that has had so much subconscious and repressed baggage just pushed underneath, keep it underneath to keep the tower going of Babel. That, what do you think humanity's going to look like at this moment? Like, it's going to have there's going to be anger, there's going to be pissed off, because the moon card always looks like such a subtle and just simple card. It's definitely not, especially that the scorpion's coming out of the waters. That's the revealing. There's a revealing. And I feel like the only time that you actually, when you see this card, have a revealing is when you have that, oh shit. It's an oh shit to me of like, I have been doing that. I have been suppressing the way I don't speak up, or I don't set a boundary in my life, or they could go into so many different ways.
Yeah, and that's actually a really, I think anybody who's serious about their spiritual journey gets to a point where they have to confront that and have that conversation with themselves, and it's so uncomfortable to have that conversation, like calling yourself out on your own bullshit. Like, when you finally admit to yourself. It doesn't matter what anybody around you thinks, but when you have that conversation with yourself, like, yeah, I'm full of shit. Yeah, that's some bullshit. I've been lying about that. My intentions have been off, and it's so uncomfortable. But then after that, it's like, dude, I feel great. You know what? Right. Because starting now, that's over. Right. And coming up out of that shell, like I said, most of the time, of course, like you said, secrets and whatnot, but a period of gestation and change, if this comes up in a reading, like a lot of times I'll tell people that, and it is very much that period of you being in there with all that subconscious shit that you've been trying to hide in the dark, and letting that come up to the surface and going through that painful awakening, but it's actually very liberating. It's very liberating. And I think humanity, going back to what you were saying, is being gently guided into that.
Yeah.
Here lately, like as you see now, they've been talking about UFOs in the mainstream media.
I
Like
know.
that's insane. Like the things that they're doing crazier and crazier and crazier shit to get all the sleepers to think, maybe those conspiracy theorists were right, you know?
Well, I mean, going into that, I mean, the idea of the moon itself is the only body that we see in all of our universe that faces us the whole time, right? It doesn't turn. Sure, it might revolve around the Earth, but it doesn't rotate itself. So it's just sitting and being a mirror to us the whole time. It's reflecting the same face all the time. Mm-hmm. And so the moon itself, just thinking of the card, deals with this, what the fuck is that? And it's a reflector. It's reflecting the light of the sun. So there is this element of our soul having to see that mirror image, but in a reflective way. So there's definitely a lot to reflect on whenever this card comes up. But I think at the same time, too, it's one of those really interesting cards when it comes to probably one of the better cards of the idea of conspiracy. You know, the moon to me is like, whether you look at the creepy people at Bohemian Grove, they always do it at night with the moon out, right? Or old witches always, you know, some of the dark, I'll call it the dark magic, right? Always do all their ritualistic practices at night with the full moon out. So it's one of those really weird hidden entities too, dealing with hidden stuff within yourself. And I would say it's the shadow work card. You know, there's a lot that you know, people like to, like, I think put the figure of shadow as like, put up Dracula or put up some reptile or reptilian or, you know, but the shadow work is always in what's not being seen. This is the card where what isn't being seen and whether or not you're going to see it or not. And that seeing moment, I don't think comes like, oh, I was having a shadow moment today and I can see it today. It's like, I've been in shadow work is your whole life. It never stops.
Yeah.
And there's moments where we go through positive periods where I feel like the sun card is the opposite of this card, right? Where it's like we're fucking riding free. We're not free though. There is something that feels stuck about this card. You know, especially that the wolves are howling at night. Like there's a call. There's a calling to pay attention to what you're really doing. And I think that only comes in situations to where you have to look inside yourself and be like, why have I been feeling this way for so long? And especially I would say when you're not feeling happy or you're not feeling in yourself. I feel like it keeps coming back because the moon is with the sun in this card. That's what's so interesting. You can see the sun in it. Of course, that's the reflection of it, but for a full moon. But that's the irony. It's like it's ourself and our shadow self having to look at our conscious self. And that's, I think, the most craziest part of spirituality is that back and forth has to be there in order to be awake. So it's a card you have to deal with. It's a part of life spiritually in the awakening experience you have to have. It's one of those have to have things or you're not technically going through an awakening experience at all.
Yeah. That's the unfortunate part of the entire spiritual journey that we've talked about many, many times that, you know, like most people don't want to talk about it.
I know.
And I think I could be wrong. I could be casting a false judgment, but my theory is it's because the majority of the people who have an audience in the spiritual community are afraid of making the audience mad.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not.
Right.
I don't aim to. That's not my goal, but I'm a king of swords. So I'm going to speak the truth because I care. So that's like, you have to look at the shadow. So many clients come to me and they'll ask me, am I on the right path? What am I doing wrong? And I'm like, you're not doing nothing wrong. What the only thing that you're doing wrong, if anything, is assuming that the awakening path is supposed to be this fun, fluffy duffy, you're floating on a cloud. And it's like, no, not really. Now don't get it twisted. There's definitely love and light and fluffy stuff that goes along with it, but you can't ignore that shadow. You can't ignore the dark side of it. You have to get in touch with your demons. You have to understand your demons. You have to understand your dark side. And I think one of the biggest, again, my theory, I could be wrong, but I think it was done on purpose. I think the spiritual community was infiltrated by the dark side on purpose to get people to try to ignore their shadow side. because they think it's something bad, and it's not inherently
Right.
bad, but it will turn bad if you ignore it. And like I said, you ignore it long enough, it becomes a thought form entity of its own.
That's
And
true.
that's when it gets dangerous, you know?
Yeah, it's a very dangerous game, I feel, just playing around with, especially I think in life, when you're around anybody who is in that moon card space. I mean, we have to remember that this can affect us individually. You could be with somebody who's, you're feeding the subconscious in somebody, right? It's like, it's all right, you know, keep suppressing yourself. You might not say that, but, you know, you could be party to that. I think that, you know, that's what's hard is you don't want to be away from people, because I feel like whenever you go to, like, let's say a spiritual talk festival, the moon card shows up a lot, you know? The fluffy part always shows up first, but then once especially the end of the night comes or something like that. Or it reminds me of going to bars, you know? It's like, it seems like a fun thing, and then when at 2 a.m. comes, 4 a.m. comes, whatever, woo!
Oh, yeah.
People's real shit starts coming out.
Yeah.
And that's what's really weird is there's always also with this card a hidden intention, and usually it's not a positive hidden intention. I mean, it reminds me of guys that want to go fuck a chick after the end of the bar. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, they're being real nice, but until you see as you go through life with your group of friends, like, oh, that guy is that fucking weird. Oh, the shit that he always went through, where his dad used to beat him and shit. That's why he just took that chick around the corner he said he was gonna make out with and just fucking slapped her because he's drunk. Or whatever. You know, this is that card where I feel like people have to pay more attention to, because I feel like people look at it and just go, well, it's going to be emotional or something like that. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much in this card, especially looking at the 2 towers, that there is a rite of passage, which is the shadow work you must learn within yourself. You must understand. And I think once you do that, and I think that's what you teach so well, is to teach people how to really catch these triggers, catch these things in their mind, catch these things in their subconscious, because the moon card, we all go through it, but it's whether or not, or as like an astrologer, right? I know it's a full moon. You know what I mean? Like, there's something that allows me to go, oh, it's coming up in a couple days. All right. I need to be aware that you have to have some sort of something in your awareness that kicks that understanding that I possibly could be going down that road, and I want to be aware of it. All you have to do is be aware. It's not like you have to go into crazy mode or something. It's not like you have to go and get an army of fucking people to protect you from your subconscious. Like, no matter how much Joe Biden's up there and Hunter Biden and the cocaine's in the White House, no matter how many people are trying to protect him or whatever, there's still that feeling that we're all like something else is going on. That's the moon card.
Yeah, and not only do you want to be aware, but you want to be honest about it.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've been giving that advice a lot here lately is give yourself a vibe check. Get into the habit of checking your vibe. And stop comparing yourself to these fake spiritual people who pretend that they're just in a high vibe 24/7, 365. No. Now, we're working towards that.
Yeah.
The goal is to eventually get to a world where it is 24/7, 365 high vibration. But right now, the goal is just to become aware of your vibration so that when you dip down into a low vibe, you can catch it.
Yes.
You know, and like, oh, okay, my vibe sucks right now. Okay, cool. I'm a human, but, you know, and another thing too, to kind of veer off, the universe doesn't care why you're in a low vibe. It doesn't care. So I don't care if your best friend just stabbed you in the back. The universe is not looking at you saying, oh, so you're in a low vibe because something bad happened to you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and break my own laws for you. No, the universe is like, oh, okay, well, you're casting low vibrations. Okay, I'm going to give you low vibrational shit. You know? So being honest with it, and it's okay. Just because you dip into a low vibration, that does not make you a bad person.
Right.
Because that shadow side of yourself that we all have, we're all flawed humans, it's okay. And get in touch with it. Get to know that shadow side of yourself. And it can get scary, but filling that dark void in your heart full of light involves getting to know that dark void.
Yeah.
Flipping the light on in there is going to be a scary process, because when you flip the light on that dungeon that's been dark for the last 20 years, you're going to find some shit in there that you've been trying to run from and hide from. So it's scary, but
Yeah, and that, I think that's the hardest part, is that it's the continual like suppression of understanding it but not wanting to look at it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then it eventually becomes to where it's very rarely checked on, to where, oh, you just thought that was one cockroach in that room? You know what I mean? Like they go quick. They rapidly pre-produce quick. And then it becomes to where, unfortunately, you can go down that path too long. And so you try to open that door and it's full of cockroaches and you don't even want to even go in there. It becomes overwhelming. And then that's when, unfortunately, it gets to, I would say, mental health crisis, really extreme, or some really, really hard shadow stuff where people then get fully hopeless, I would say. Because it feels like they're drowning when really this card is more about, well, all you have to do is just get out of the water. It's not like it's too deep. Like you create your own depth. It's not like, it's not like I've gotten into too, that's the number one thing you hear in spirituality. Like I've gotten too far into the depthness of things to be able to handle life. When it's like, there's that expression that God never gives us anything that we can't handle.
Yeah. I mean, I am a firm believer in that. But I mean, you good to use your analogy. If you leave that light off for too long and it's too dark for too long, then what happens is the cockroaches start reproducing at such an incredible rate. Then it does get very, very deep. And no, the universe doesn't give you anything that you can't handle. But I mean, it gets harder and harder to handle the longer you run from it.
It's true.
And it can lead you throwing yourself. How am I going to word this? Basically, it can lead you to want to give up and leave early because it's so overwhelming that it seems like you'll never be able. Because I can think back and remember what it was like to have been running from it for so long, for so many years, that after a certain point, it's like, I don't even want to be here. And I remember back in the day, you could have offered me $20 million. I'd be like, no, I don't even want to be here. Like that. That's how dangerous it can get if you run from your shadow self and ignore it that long without reflecting, without going inside, and you let the ego just reign supreme. It can get bad.
Yeah, and I'm going to take. You had spoke, I think, one of our first episodes about when you did get to that place and you actually did go to that side, and it wasn't like you just saw some beautiful being show up, right? It's like, I try to tell people all the time, as above, so below. So it's like, if it's crazy down here, it's crazy up there. But especially if you're in the frequency, like a frequency match. If you're going to heaven, well, you better be in that same frequency match of going to heaven.
Yeah.
So if you're in that place where you're like, it's too much, this place sucks. We'll just take the basics. This place sucks, I can't handle it anymore. Do you think that up there or wherever you go, down there, around there, is going to be the opposite?
Yeah.
It's going to be exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Oh,
And you're going to get there and be like, this place sucks.
yeah.
This place is horrible. I can't handle it here. Well, are you going to be able to take yourself out of that place? Maybe. And then where does that go? The same place. That could be a pattern of dimensional timelines that could be infinite, that I don't know how you'd get out of that one. Eventually you'd get out of that one until you realize, I don't have to be in this vibe. I don't have to suppress myself, because it's always going to come to wherever that suppression's coming from. Like what's being suppressed? And it could be those little intricate things. It's not the 5 of Cups where it's like, oh God, when it's going down the river. At least he's willing to realize at that moment, oh shit, like I have some cups I can fill up now with some new frequency and new vibration. This card's different though. It feels like you're saturated in it. And all you have left is to look up and realize, I got myself here.
Yeah.
Nobody put me here. I got here. That's the whole, I think, analogy of the scorpion coming out. It's not like the scorpion was born in the water. He obviously got in there. And if it's dealing with a scorpion, it's dealing with Scorpio. So it's dealing with sex. It's dealing with shadows. It's dealing with the places where our will or our desires maybe weren't in alignment with our true frequency and our true soul, and got us into that saturated, emotional, but more subconsciously kind of like give up place. It's like quicksand. instead of freaking the fuck out, that does the worst. You seek in the sixth sense, you know, you have to kind of remain calm and kind of, all you can do is look up and you can reflect, and you have to get your mind and your soul into that other place. Like, how do I get out of this quicksand? You know what? There's a tree branch over there. Let me calm down for a second. Let me figure out how to get out of this. And be honest with yourself. Like, I got myself here. If you're going to sit there in this quicksand and be like, fuck this shit. I can't believe I got here. You're not going anywhere at that point. That's what's so hard about it. This is, I think, one of the hardest cards there is, honestly. Especially, we can go into the relationship stuff with this.
Well, I mean, I was going to say that there's some people that get addicted to it. Like, that's one of the, I noticed that a lot when I was homeless, especially. There was only me and maybe a couple of other people who didn't want to be there. Like, it's really easy to get addicted to rock bottom. And I don't know, you maybe have met people like that who are at that low place. And that's where I'm at in my journey is I want to be able to put a message out there to where, like, basically, if you choose to reject it, that's your conscious choice. Because, like, there are a lot of people out there who are consciously choosing to drown in the water. They are so addicted to the negative emotions. And I'm not saying that hypothetically. That's not an analogy. It's not analogous to anything. I'm talking literally. Their body has become physiologically addicted to the chemicals produced by negative emotions. We've talked about this before. Like, they've proven that scientifically. I promise you, there's somebody out there right now who is on their phone looking at some content that they don't want to look at.
I know.
They're reading some news article or they're watching some video that pisses them off on purpose. They picked their phone up and they did it on purpose. And those are the types of people who get stuck in this energy because they want to be there.
I would call that spiritual derangement syndrome. Since it was Trump derangement, right?
Yeah.
But really it's not about Trump. It's about spiritual derangement, right? It's like, I'm going to intentionally find what I don't like. Somebody asked a great question in here. Help us understand how people end up feeling like that. Was it childhood, victim mentality, cruelness from others? Because I've been in a very dark place, but would never check out. I think it's a great question because it's a question that is like, again, and I think the hardest thing in spirituality to realize, it doesn't matter if you had the worst situation coming into this world, it's still how you deal with it. I mean, the best success stories are the people you ever hear who had nothing, who didn't have this, or had this horrible situation happen, and they pulled out of it. You can't, if you're going to own the victim story, that's a suppression to your greatness.
Yeah.
You know?
I've never heard any success story that didn't start out with some kind of childhood trauma. Everybody, I mean, I don't even think I've ever even seen, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure that somebody's going to in the comments, but I don't even think I've ever seen a true success story of somebody who's just born into it. That's not success in my opinion. Success, like if you accomplished something, if you were just born into it and you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, that's not success. Success is when you have to overcome some bullshit to climb the mountain. And everybody that I've ever heard, any true success story I've ever heard, it all has the same thing. Childhood trauma, bullying, abuse, alcoholic parents, drug addicted parents,
divorce young.
Yeah, all kinds of shit. And they all say the same thing. I used my trauma as fuel. They all say the same thing. But it gets to a point where, going back to when I was homeless, there was nothing special about me. I was in a vast community of homeless people. We all had the same resources available to us. Like, there was nobody came and helped me up out of it.
Right.
Like, nothing was handed to me. I got up and walked my ass to the homeless shelter, turned myself into a program, and went from there to a transitionary home. A block away was a temp service where I could start work, and that was available for everybody.
Right.
But there were so many people. And I'd be like, dude, there's a homeless shelter. Oh, fuck that shelter. I don't want to do that. No, blah, 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 blah. I like it here. I like this lifestyle. I don't got to pay bills to live under the bridge. And, they'd get a disability check once a month and blow it on cocaine and hookers. And they enjoyed that life. So
But I was going to say that's suppression in itself of a life too, right? By the story we create. Like, what do you mean? I like not having to work. I like not having to do anything. I like to not have to do period anything at all except what I want to do in my life. And it's like, okay, like I can understand that, but at the same time, there's a place where it goes to where it's like, well, if you're literally, and I it's no judgment, but when you start to look like the creepy crawlers in this card that are, like, when you're the creepy one coming around the corner at fucking 4 a.m, like, hey, what's going on? Like, like where have you been? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. Because it brings you into the true shadow itself, the dark itself. And we all tell ourselves the story like, well, no, what do you mean? I grew up great. There was nothing wrong in my life. There was nothing wrong. That's already a moon card right there. It's not till you get some age and you start to realize that's why I'm this way. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's that's where the secrets come from, right? It's like not everybody knows every situation you've been through. So you know yourself. You're the only one who knows yourself. And probably the government now with phones, but not even all parts of that. But they've got a good amount of it now.
Yeah.
But you have to realize that most of it is you're the only one who knows yourself fully and all the experiences you've gone through. So, you're never going to talk about the blowout you had with your best friend when you're talking to a new person. Instead of being like, yeah, this shit happened, and you've worked through it, and you could be like, yeah, and I fucked up here and I learned that. That's where I love this card because the only people I trust are people who are willing to be like, yeah, I've had some shit that I've had to own and face and got through it. If you can't do that within yourself and everything's never been a problem, or the idea of perfection.
Yeah.
I think that's what this card really hits. That takes people down. Mm-hmm. You need to do life this way. There is no one way to do life as far as Matrix concerned.
Yeah.
Go be a good little Matrix little suck fuck to the Matrix. and instead of being a participant in changing this reality and making reality great, just be a third party and be into cucking and watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a very good point that you made. That because one of the biggest hurdles in learning manifestation is we're so programmed to be more worried about other people's opinions than the actual truth. Like it gets to a point where it's like, fuck the people's opinions. Their opinions don't matter. The universe knows what's really going on in your heart. Like there's a lot of people like you know how many people like on social media, they are more concerned with everybody thinking that they have a good life than to actually be living a good life. Like I'm fucking miserable, but as long as everybody thinks I have a good life, but you're still fucking miserable. Like it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. It doesn't matter if you have everybody bamboozled around you. That's not what manifests your life experiences. Your results in life are telling the truth about you.
Yes.
Take a look around at your life right now. Anybody sitting at home, take a look around at your life. That's telling the truth about you. It doesn't matter if what your friends think. It doesn't matter what your family thinks. The universe is not looking at you saying, well, you know what? All these people think you're an asshole, so yeah, I'm going to have to thump you in the head.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. The universe is like, yo, fuck what they think. I know where your heart is, and I know what your intentions are.
Yeah, because when you're in that space, and let's say you're subservient to what people you think, first of all, it's whatever you think they want. It's not actually what they think.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part. So that's where the illusion of the moon card can come. But the other part is when I see the two towers, it reminds me like, let's take the guy in the tower and the tower card, and it eventually gets to a point to where fucking the lightning crashes, the storm comes, and he's flying out of it. But the times leading up to that, it's like at night, him walking out to this place because he doesn't know how to handle it. It reminds me of like when you deal with something that maybe you've lied to yourself about in your life, and then you're just out in the backyard or you walk somewhere, and you're trying to process it all. It's almost like, the two towers are up in this card, but it doesn't mean it's as pretty as it looks. Mm-hmm. People watch people on TV, social media, and they think it looks good. You can tell it only looks good when when somebody's just genuine and they're genuinely happy. It's not a show of, look at me, or look at what it is, because that's very tower-like. And also, that's not very true to the essence of a soul, like emotional. Like, look at me because I've done it better, or look at me of how I've built my life, without it having some sort of service to share or to help somebody else on their journey. The awakening experience isn't about just your own journey, but it's the journey in which we use the awakening experience to share with others, to awake others, and that we're all learning from each other. So there also is in this card an inability to share emotionally back and forth the lessons that have been learned. And usually before a big tower moment comes in life, you feel it, you sense it, you know it, but you're suppressing it. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah, usually suppressing it because they're too worried about what other people are going to think.
Yeah.
Like that is so, and I know that sounds so cliche, so I'm having a hard time thinking of a good way to explain it that doesn't sound so cliche, but we are so obsessed with what other people think. That's one of the first things that you got to get rid of when you start awakening. I know it sounds cliche, but you know how many people out there claim they don't care what people think, but they're full of shit? It's like, no, right. You got to really, really stop giving a fuck what people think. If you give yourself permission to be your true, authentic self, first of all, you are never going to be respected and liked by every single human being. Ever. Never, ever. So get that idea out of your mind. It does not matter what you do. Somebody is going to be throwing shit at you. Somebody's going to be judging you. That's inevitable. Get that idea out of your mind. So if you just go ahead and give yourself permission to be your true, authentic self, then the people you really need in your life will gravitate towards you. Yeah. And of course you're going to have people that hate you. That's just fucking life. Right. But I mean, it makes it so much easier to understand who are the people that I really need in my life. Well, I'm just going to be me. If you hate me, you hate me. If you like me, you like me. That's how I know. That's how I'm so 100% confident whenever I connect with somebody, because I give myself permission to be authentic. So if I know in my heart that I'm being my real self, then I pull somebody into my life. I know that's somebody the universe brought into my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it reminds me of if when the tower does fall, it's so funny, it goes to the star card and you're all alone. All those people will leave anyway. They might judge you, they might say anything, but they weren't your right people because they didn't want to be with you in every part of who you are.
Yeah.
Right? Only because you maybe had the tower, which that could be as simple as you were their partner or you were their friend that used to give them a ride. I mean, like people sometimes put all these tarot cards as like the ultimate success of your life or something, where it's like that tower could be like, well, I relied on talking to you on the phone every time, or we went to this together. But now that you can't do that anymore, I'm not going to be in your life anymore. And then that's where it's like, well, that was a great reveal of the shadow of yourself, believing that you were propping yourself up to maybe be something for somebody without even realizing it because it was suppressed, even though the only time they ever called was when you were going to that concert, or the only time they couldn't have called was when you were going to go do that one thing that they wanted from you. You know what I mean? That you felt like you had to be in a people-pleasing, subservient role. So it can wake you up in many ways, especially relationship-wise, the moon card, of like the shadows of why this relationship is actually happening, which would be a karmic relationship. There's a karmic aspect to this, you know, because there's that karma of like, why does this not feel like it is light? I feel like, you know, that's where the sun card, it's light, it's young, it's on the horse, it's going out into the sun. The sunflowers are everywhere. It's light, it's bright. But when it's heavy and it's dark and it's emotional and it's feeling tough, it's karmic, you know? But again, without that service role, like I feel like that's where it's hard. We go through this in the role of doing service because it's usually us purging something we're attached to emotionally that we've been suppressing to grow greater, that we're still attached on to something that we don't want to let go of. That's very Scorpio, and that is why that card is there, is when the Scorpio gets out of the water to let go. Because if you become too obsessed over the way something should be, or the feeling that you should have about something, because there's the healthy spirituality of like, I'm going to manifest, this is the feeling that I'm feeling, I'm in this vibration and it's flowing. Well, we get to places where that frequency runs out. It evolves higher. So we have to take it to a higher one. And we have to let go of that one. But it's hard when it's like, well, it always worked this way. It always is the way that it's supposed to be this way. Well, no, you don't evolve. I mean, if I'm going to still sit with my fucking Trapper Keeper and my fucking number 2 pencil fucking where I used to buy the little fucking, well, I didn't buy, but you know what I mean? It was given to me in class, the little fucking pencil sticks that you put in the fucking click, 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 the automatic pencil. I forgot what those things were called.
Yeah.
If I was still living my life, I have a Trapper Keeper and a JanSport fucking backpack every day to get there and write my life down and put my name at the top with the date. I don't know who does that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good point because I haven't thought about that probably as much as I should have. That sometimes I found myself getting caught up in like, well, shit, this used to work before. What happened now? Because as you move up to a different vibration and a different frequency, things start behaving differently.
Yeah.
You know, things start behaving a little bit faster, a little bit slower. And yeah, that's good that you brought that up. That is something I should probably talk about more often, you know. Like especially like with business and finance and money and stuff like that, you know, like you got to stay on your toes constantly. And it's a never ending process because you're constantly busting up through a new layer. We all put these finish lines in our mind that we think that, okay, well, I'm going to get there and then I'll be done. It's like, no, you won't. No, you won't.
Right.
There is so much shit. Not only that, but what we are transmuting and transforming is generations and generations and generations of bullshit. So this could also indicate some generational trauma or a generational curse that needs to be broken, because this shit can be passed on, you know, vibrationally from generation to generation to generation, and there can be decades and centuries of vibrational curses that you're holding, and then once you become aware of it, it's your responsibility to break it, you know?
I love that you said it's your responsibility, because we can't, as a society, break it for somebody else. As far as like, because now we're seeing the opposite happen, right? Now we're wedging out which race should get this and which race shouldn't get this, and who should be. And it's all the same shit that happened in the '60s all over again, but inversed. Like if you're this kind of person now, or if you're a man now and you're this or you're that, then you're not allowed to be this way anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not even about inclusion anymore, and everybody thinks, well, everybody needs to go fix this. It's like, you got to break all that shit on yourself and not let it get you. I don't let it get me down now that we live in a world where being a male astrologer that's turning 39 this week, that looks white, doesn't have as many opportunities as somebody who is trans, that's black. I don't let that get me down.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that.
You know what I mean? I'm sorry that the algorithm uses AI now, and I'm sorry that I don't look like I'm trans, which I have nothing against trans people, but I'm sorry that the algorithm supports you. If you look trans, you say you're trans, and it's in the it's in the auto settings, and they even send us surveys here on YouTube like about it, and they test you based off of those surveys.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that I don't fit the script. That's okay. I'm not gonna force the world to change for me. I'm going to have to accept that shadow and be like, yeah, it pisses me off. But at the same time, am I going to let it get me down? That's where I think the moon card is one of those things where it's like, if it's a real issue, it's going to be long lasting. It's going to keep going.
Yeah. You know? That's so funny. I've never heard anybody else say it like that, because that's what I've been saying for the last couple of years now, that I mean, it's the same people playing the same game they were back in the 50s and 60s, you know, and it's just these puppet masters up here. Back in the 50s and whatnot, they brainwashed the white people into hating black people.
Right.
Now, the same people are brainwashing the black people into hating the white people. And I put that video on Instagram a few days ago because I keep hearing people say, oh man, today's day and age, it is so horrible. If you're a straight white man, oh, it's just the worst time to be a straight white man. And I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Pretty fucking cool. Yeah, I don't mind it. It ain't getting me down.
No.
Again, going back to, it's only a bad thing if you give a fuck about other people's opinion.
Yes.
If you think I'm racist just because I'm white, well, you're a fucking idiot. You can think in one hand and shit in the other, and tell me which one fills up first, you know? I don't care what you think. We got it. And that's what they're using. That's what they're using. They're using your fear of other people's opinion against you.
Right.
That's why you got to stop giving a fuck what people think.
Yes.
So what is, think I'm racist or a misogynist and all these little terms that they're trying to scare people with. Oh, I don't want nobody to think I'm a misogynist, you know, like we talked about that a couple episodes ago. Who gives a fuck what they think? Like, this is where you have to go inside and tell yourself, well, am I a hateful person? No, I'm not. Am I racist? No, I'm not. Well, that's all that matters. You know?
I mean, yeah. I was going to say that the imagery on this is like the Divine Mother, because the Empress card, of course, is what we consider maternity and maternal, because she's got Venus with her, and she's the card that represents like giving birth, and she's got the abundance and the essence of the feminine. This is the essence of that feminine nurturing nature that is with you through these more real shit. You know, like I remember getting caught in the fucking park when I was 15 with my buddies with the beer bong and getting the cops called and my mom having to come pick me up, you know? And it's that maternal nature that, no, you know, my son's doing this or getting fucked up and still is there instead of, I'm done with you, fuck you, and done. Which, unfortunately, there's people out there who've had that situation done before to them where they don't have that maternal energy, whether it's to a friend, a mother, or anybody that's with them through the shadow that we all go through. I mean, I don't trust somebody who hasn't been caught fucking doing some crazy shit when they were young. I really don't. I don't trust people that way because then that's when the suppression comes. You always find, and it's weird just being in the shadow world and going through it as a spiritual person. I don't know why people in their mid-40s have their midlife crisis and decide to try drugs then. So to go back kind of a little bit farther back when you're like, I don't think anybody who had it good had it good. They don't. They always want to escape, right? They're always, you need to go to the school. You need to do this. You know, they get accustomed to having to be what their parents force them to be. And guess what happens? By the time their parents die or whatever, that's when you see that 55-year-old at the fucking Vegas at the fucking bottle service fucking line will pay anything that he's got to try and get some attention. Yeah. To repress. Mm-hmm. And people think, oh, he's finally living. It's like, no. He's pushing down all that's really going there and becoming creepball status, you know? Mm-hmm. That's what's actually happening. Yeah. That's why I've always said something very similar, that, you know, when it comes to relationships, my person is going to have to be somebody who's had some experience. I don't want somebody who's inexperienced. I know that's a real hot topic in today's day and age. I don't want to be with a woman that's inexperienced. I know that may be a very unpopular opinion, but just for the same reason you just said, when somebody hasn't experienced life, they've repressed. They're curious. What else is out there? What else is out there? I want you to know what else is out there, so that when you pick me, you're going to be like, okay, well, I've been around the block. I know what's out there. That mystery, that's not a mystery to me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I don't really trust anybody who has walked this straight line, period, and just been the goody two shoes their whole life. It's like, you're hiding something. You ain't never been in no trouble. You ain't never made no mistakes. You ain't never done nothing wrong. There's a side of you that nobody knows. And it's just like you're driving a fucking F-150 pickup truck across a frozen lake. It's gonna crash. I mean, you're walking a tightrope in a windstorm. I don't trust it. You know, it's gonna fucking break the ice and fucking sink too. Yeah, and that's what's really hard. And the other part too is because this deals with the past. It's the past patterns that keep happening. The loop that, you know, one thing that shows up every month, no matter what happens in life, is the moon is going to be full. You're going to see that every month. So we have a time to check in and reflect on how things are going. And I feel like it's always a moment that where it's like, one of my good mentors, Christopher Witecki, always called the full moon, and he still does, a wolf in sheep's clothing time, where we can, you know, it looks like it's great. Oh my God, you know, like this is exactly what I need to do. But is that some subconscious pattern that you're doing when really there's a wolf underneath that you actually know, but you just are trying to say, no, it's a sheep. No, it's good. No, it's good. It's okay. It's all right. It's like that's the problem, is that we live in a world today where it's like, you know, I don't think it's a crazy concept when we say a politician is a fucking reptilian underneath that skin. It's the same as a wolf in sheep's clothing, like in Little Red Riding Hood. Like the darkest people in the world are people who are going to hide. That's why this card deals with secrets and hiding what they really are. So the idea too, to kind of go back on the race thing, just because it's been something that I have been meaning to say, and I'm going to finally have the courage to say it since the North Node just went into Aries today. There are a lot of spiritual channels on Instagram and YouTube that are saying that black people are the only spiritual people that are meant to be here, and everybody who's not black is going to die. Because they don't have the melanin in their skin, and that they're the original humans that were brought here to this planet. And I think it's a dangerous topic. And it's funny because I follow them and I say positive comments and shit, and then I just get nonstop DMs of people like, well, you're going to die. You ain't black. I don't even know why you're in this room.
It doesn't surprise me.
And I'm just like, wow. We're at that place now.
Yeah.
And then of course, I've already called out the Christian stuff. So it's like, wow, the spiritual people who are just all about doing the work and all cool with how everybody is we're wedged into a very small corner, and that's something to where instead of feeling like I'm feeling suppressed, it's more like, no, I stand up and will speak what's there. And even though if people look at me like some scorpion coming out of the water, I'd rather be that and face that shadow of other shadows than be stuck in my own shadow and be like, yeah, you know what? I don't have melanin in my skin the same way, and I'm going to die.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, there are no human beings on this planet who are the original humans. It doesn't work that way.
I know.
The original humans that were on this planet, they're gone. They're gone. The beings came here and took them and spliced their DNA with us and created us. And then in order to brand their cattle, they tinkered with the DNA just enough to create a few different races. I mean, but I mean, you know, that's neither here nor there. That honestly doesn't surprise me. I mean, there are so many, and this goes back to what I'm always saying, there are so many different divided little groups. And the spiritual community is no different. That's why with this show, my goal is, that's the reason why, you know, I like the idea of a podcast that's raw and real and spiritual, so that hopefully this reaches people of all walks of life, and they can connect with it. Like, oh, wow, I can connect with that spiritual person. Most people can't connect with spiritual people. You know, the people who are, oh, la, la, love and light, eat your vegetables and drink your green smoothie and la, la, la. Nobody can connect with that bullshit.
No.
Nobody can connect with that. So that's why with this show, my goal is to be able to touch as many people as possible. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what your beliefs are. I want to be able to connect with you so that you can say, oh, shit, those two spiritual dudes, I can kind of relate to them. So that's going to plant a seed that hopefully will bloom into an awakening experience, you know?
Yeah, because going back to human origins, not any of us know the exact nature, and that's the whole suppressed aspect of us as a whole entire collective, right? It's like we're constantly in this place right now where we're all having to realize that this has been whether we even know what the time period is or not, but let's just say all of the thousands of years of human existence trying to figure out who the fuck it is. The biggest shadow that's on top of all of us is we don't know where the fuck is really going on fully.
Yeah.
That there's something that's still hiding itself. So the idea when somebody says that this race will survive and this one won't, and this race is better, it's like, no, there is no better. We're all the same. We're all humans, and we're all fucking getting the same fucking bullshit cloaked. And yeah, a lot of us get pretty close to thinking that we see the answer, and right when we get there, it's another bigger field full of more information. Like, you know what I mean? Of like, oh, that's not it. I mean, it feels like, and that's what the awakening experience is it's supposed to be that till we're gone. I don't think it stops, and then we have like 10 years in our life before we die or something of like, yeah, I know everything. Like, I mean, your moment before you die is going to be probably the most enlightening moment of, I get it now. That's probably the moment is when you die. That's
Oh, yeah.
true metamorphosis and transformation and death and rebirth. Like, it's not, if anything, if you're going to search so much to find the answer, I don't care if you were in Nazi Germany and they were trying to find it, it ended up turning into atom bombs. Mm-hmm. That got used and stolen by other people and fucking used, and now you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't go the right direction, especially you have to, in many ways, especially when you're putting something forward, which is totally a segregationist aspect to things. That's the thing is we all see the same full moon. We all see the same moon. We all see the same sun. So obviously we're all in the same place.
Yeah.
Even though spiritually we could be in different dimensions or time zone, there's still a part of us that are all in this reality at this timeline at the same time. Because that's the only gauge we can use is looking at the moon or the sun. But if we want to talk about those things, especially the sun, that thing don't look the same way it was when we were young.
Yeah.
Right? That thing is not looking the same. The skies aren't looking the same. So obviously there's another moon situation going on, because that's the other part is like more of us are now finally talking about the moon. Like, what the fuck is that thing? Right? What the fuck is going really on with that thing? So it's like, I think that's part of the shadow that comes out with the moon card, especially the tides. That's the other thing that this card also represents is the tides come up and they come down with the moon. Well, the tide finally comes in life when it's up. You better use that to get back onto the land, right? To actually get back on your path. But I almost feel like this card can bring up, these timelines that finally show up in your life and you don't do anything about it. And then you just keep saturating in it. It's just like paying attention to the frequencies as they emerge and waiting for the gears of the universe to turn. And when they turn, you fucking go with it instead of trying to force something when you already know. That's the worst part about people that don't know any shit about the ocean or boats. It's like, you really think we could go out right now? The tide's down. You parked your boat so high up without planning on when the tide would go down that it's stuck on the beach. I don't care how many of us, it's not Gulliver's Travels. I'm sorry, I'm not fucking bigger than the fucking Little People and Bombo and all them. I don't know if you remember that from the 30s.
Oh, yeah.
Bombo. Like, I'm sorry that, you didn't pay attention to that. That's the divine nature of our earth and our universe and how that all comes together, and we're part of that. But there's that shadow of like, I think the basic shadow, but it's the most widespread throughout our humanity, is not off race, not off sexual orientation, not off identity, but just whether or not you have an understanding of these divine understandings and motions and frequencies and how it works. I don't care what race you are. If you don't understand the tides, it's not that you're a stupid person or anything like that. You just don't understand them. So yeah, your boat's going to be stuck on the fucking beach. You're not going to be going anywhere.
Well, there's some people that don't want to understand it. That's the thing. That's like, we're getting to that point where eventually we will have that understanding. But like right now, because I've been asking myself for the past few years, what's the point of hiding some of the shit they're hiding? What's the point of hiding what shape the earth is or what the moon is? And looking at it from a big retrospective perspective, I'm convinced that, let's just say that all of a sudden they came out with the truth tomorrow. First of all, would you even believe it if it was on the news? I don't think a lot of people would.
No.
But let's say they did come out with the truth tomorrow. There'd probably be a lot of people that would leave this game. Because the whole experience of being a human and, living life as a human and getting a job and working and going to school and making money and all the things that we do as humans would completely lose its flavor. And I think a lot of people would go ahead and leave. If they understood the full scope of what we really are, who we really are, and what this place really is, a lot of people would leave. So there's still... I think that if there is a division, the only two groups I could divide humanity into is the people who like the 3D human game and the people who are here to change the game and make the shift into a higher vibrational new version of the game in this new world that we're moving into. So, like, basically, right now it's just a race to get the people who want to make the shift to understand it. And the people who don't, they'll stay here and they'll go to a lower vibrational timeline.
Yeah.
You know, but we're getting there. It's just going to be kind of a slow, gradual process.
Well, I was going to say, that's what I think the experiment in the last 3 years was, because if you were to try and tell somebody that, no, this experiment is not going to work, and the data was coming out right away, it's like, nope, suppress, it works. So sometimes this moon card can create a very extreme subconscious belief system that actually manifests as true for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, that happens in a relationship, right? You're like, no, it's the best relationship of my life. Da, da, da. And then, 5 years later, it's like, yeah, no, we're divorced. They took this. My ass got humbled. I feel like this card has a humbling that comes later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you suppress. So it's like the perfect example of what's to come, because I think what's to come is, it's right in front of people. They just don't want to look in history. And especially based off the astrology with all this Saturn, Neptune, Pisces, that the hardest thing is going to be the Bible, right? To get the Western world, right? That those meetings were not done the way that people think. It was not. They made it up as they went in the moment. They changed things, and more importantly, they also killed and persecuted tons of pagans at the same time, and got rid of anything that was anything else but this book and how we define it as. It's not like it was Constantine. It was like Constantine the Great. That was the one who actually was the emperor and decided this is what it's going to be, and this is what the Bible's going to be. And we're the ones who scattered all these writings of what Jesus is and all that. And he has to be a God because we don't want a guy. And that was the big debate was God... If Jesus was born of God, that means God came before Jesus. So then how is Jesus God? That was the debate, who actually, believe it or not, that formed a sect of religion that became the Goths and sacked Rome 100 years later, not even. And people don't like to hear all this info. Like they don't even want to look at how Rome fell. And then, of course, in 541 was the greatest first Black Plague ever in Constantinople, which basically took out all the fucking Christianity. And then we have to remember that there's a long period of time where it was people in the Middle East who kept astrology going and any of these things going. And that it was not the idea of the American idea or the European idea of this white Christian ideology that survived. No. Sorry. Most of the people died, and those fucking rich people just did what they could to survive and created the Catholic Church by 800 and threw fucking... People have to do their history, because imagine what would happen to the planet is if that history came out. The same thing with the vax. That's not true. I believe in the way that the story has been told to me of Jesus forever.
Yeah.
And I'm going to believe it till you're the devil, right? That's how they created it. They create these things in the system. What's the difference between Dr. fucking Fauci and the Pope? Nada. You don't believe in the vax. You don't believe in Jesus, and you're going to hell, or you're not going to go anywhere, and you're unvaccinated, and you're fucking going to be fucking edged out of society, and you're going to die. Same shit. Same playbook.
It's amazing that it still even works in today's day and age, because you would think, wouldn't you... Because when I was a kid, like I said, I was brought up in a real hardcore Christian household. So as a young child, I absolutely believed all the stories and whatnot. But I can remember thinking... I want to know. I want the knowledge. I want to know what really happened back then. You would think that anybody who believes in something so dogmatically would be so thirsty and hungry for any information they could possibly get their hands on. Yeah. So the ancient texts are available for anybody to go read. Why would you not want to? And I mean that seriously. I'm not saying that rhetorically or to be a smartass. I'm like, seriously, why would you not want to go read the ancient texts? Why would you not want to know that information? It blows my mind.
It's the same of why people didn't want to know what was in the shot. Well, you couldn't know because it was just a white piece of paper. Same way that people want a translation of the Bible that's been translated by God knows how many thousands to me, probably 10,000s worth of people over all these generations that have changed it and have taken things out and changed the words are so powerful, and that's the thing, is the suppression of a word, right? Like when you tell somebody, that's like when somebody's being passive aggressive. It's like this massive passive aggressive, aspect. Like, oh, you guys are all so good. Come check out Christ and the way that this works, and the facts is great. Wait, you have a question over it? No, fuck you. And that's what's hard. Like, one of my favorite bands is Under Oath, and they used to be a Christian band, and they denounced being a Christian band, and they got a lot of hate and flack for it, and they expressed themselves fully. They finally got out of their fucking suppression. And it's really interesting because one of the reasons why is because one of them, the drummer, Aaron, he fucking was an evangelical, and he said he got asked because he was in the band to go to this evangelical church, and he went to go play, and they all said, oh, it's so great you're here. We're so happy that you're here for the priest and the minister that owns this church because it's his vision that we're following. He goes, his vision? What are you talking about? Isn't this all about Christ's vision? No, he's the guy who understands, and that's when he started to wake up. The other part, too, is that he also realized that when they were having some trouble in the band, they broke up, and he went through shit we're talking about, drugs, alcohol, feeling alone, bad relationships. The church, because he wasn't wearing the right clothes and didn't have the right perfect look of things, didn't accept him anymore.
Well, again, doesn't surprise me. I can remember being a kid, and of course, yeah, the clothes. You have to be dressed a certain way.
Correct.
And I can remember thinking, well, where in the Bible does it say that you have to wear a suit and tie? How did that come up? They wore robes and sandals back then.
Well, you didn't know that Jesus was a trans and he wore a suit and a tie when he was on the cross. I mean,
yeah, I can remember I wanted to grow my hair out when I was a little kid, and my grandmother would not let me. I'm like, well, Jesus had long hair. Why? Like, where in the Bible does it say?
It actually says that you're not supposed to grow long hair. Men are supposed to keep their hair short.
Oh, it said that in the Bible?
Yeah.
But Jesus had long hair? Mm-hmm. That's confusing.
Yep. Men are supposed to keep and women aren't supposed to cut their hair, and they're supposed to have it long.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Look that up.
Okay. Cool. But I always remember thinking, well then where does it say that you have to wear a suit and tie? At what point? And these were questions I was asking myself when I was a kid. Like, okay, I can totally like understand where you're coming from if you can point to, like what you just did. You pointed to something like, okay, it says in the Bible here, okay, you have to wear a suit and a tie. Oh, okay, all right, right on. But I never understood where, and like what we were talking about in that one episode, cuss words. It's like, well, the English language didn't even exist back then. So when did God say, oh, that word is bad?
Right.
If you say that, you're going to hell. It just blows my mind how easily brainwashed humans are.
I mean, and that's what's the hard part, right? It's like the term church translation meant meetings.
Meetings?
Right, just like to meet. So like we get this idea of church now as like the physical aspect of it, when the spiritual term of church is to meet, right? Just to meet with one another to discuss God. It wasn't about one person being the head of it, right? So that's why the Quaker movement was so big, because they were trying to expose the church after Reformation as saying like, that's why they call it, the Quakers, the meeting of friends, right? And they just meet, and that there's no minister, and then it's just people channeling what they feel God's telling them, and them listen and willing to listen and accept and go around the meetings. And that's it. It was meant to be no more, no less. But, this idea that church is supposed to be a way, even Jesus himself didn't want churches in the sense of creating a power system over the meetings, right? Creating a power system of a religion itself, right? The idea of a religion is fucking the same way that you look at a president and a fucking government. And the rules, I see these kids today, they go into a church, and it's like, that's where that moon suppression comes to the kid, is like, you are fucking wiggling around and you're fucking here at church, slap on the fucking hand, grab you by the cheek and pull you out of the fucking church. And there's more angry shit in the parking lot of that church than you've ever seen in your life.
Oh yes, that's how I grew up. My grandparents would paint. They'd put on this mask and they'd walk into church and they're the most perfect little people. And then as soon as we would get in that van and shut the door, they'd be screaming and hollering. Because back in the day, back in the older days, the old 3D days, back in the 50s and 60s, where the planet was at the lowest vibrations of 3D that humanity ever got down to in recorded history. It worked back then. Other like we were talking about a minute ago, other people's opinions and perception. Like the vibrations of the planet and the people on it were low enough back then. And vibrations and energy manifested and behaved slow enough to where that worked. You could put on that fake mask and maintain, the empire that you had built. But now the vibrations are too high. Energy moves too fast now.
Way too fast.
Yeah, everything behaves too fast now. So you can't hold up you can't put on a fake mask and put on a fake persona and still maintain your empire. It behaves too fast now. It crashes too quick.
I mean, that's what happened in 2020 through the last 3 years, is telling everybody to put a mask on, and everybody that was running the place had a mask on. But I think it's even weirder, too, that it's like people up until the printing press couldn't read, let alone then it took a while to get people to learn how to read, right? So when you went to a church, the only person who actually knew how to read the Latin text was the priest that had all the info. And you had to trust his word and his interpretation on it. So, you couldn't go look at the info yourself. That was the other thing, too, is they were sacred texts, so you weren't allowed to read it. Unless you were baptized and blessed and anointed by the highest up of the church, which back then would have been the bishops, and it would have been possibly even the Pope, because there wasn't a lot of people back then. But unless you got through the indoctrination system and wore the clothes and did it that way, and even the cross itself, it used to not be the cross that you see today. It was a circle cross of earth with Jesus' head in it, right? And they got rid of the Greek cross because they hate the Greeks so much. And it's really Judaism is what Christianity is. It's just teaching people Judaism, right? And then let's get rid of some of that. That's what they did in Constantine's world in 325 AD. Let's just get rid of some of that Jew stuff. So really, the biggest hater of the Jews, ironically, is the Christians, yet the Christians act like they love the Jews, which is the biggest repressed thing in the whole world, is the idea that Jews love Christians and Christians love Jews. They fucking hate each other, but they act all day like they love each other because they try to combine the same books. Well, at least the Christians do. And that's the biggest fucking moon card suppressed shit I've ever seen in my whole life, is all these Christians saying how much they love Jews when really they fucking hate Jews, since they won't follow those same things. And Constantine got rid of the Sabbath on Saturday and created Sunday because he worshiped the sun. Right? So that's what's so funny, is you just have these two systems that act like that they're intuitively connected to each other, yet they're not.
Well, and then you got the Christians and the Muslims who are against each other when in actuality, that's the same damn religion.
I know.
They just took a few names out of the Bible, like Muhammad. They took Muhammad out of the Bible, and then they it's basically not verbatim, but the Quran and the Bible are almost the same book.
I know.
But like you said a minute ago, how you had to be a special person to have access to the information, and in today's day and age, they successfully dumbed humans down enough to where now it's available to fucking everybody, but nobody wants to go look at it. So, at least back then, they knew that, oh shit, if they get their hands on this, they're going to find out the fucking truth. Now they're like, well, humans are fucking stupid, so they're not going to, we could put it right in front of their face. They're not going to look at it.
That's the craziest part of the moon card to me, is that everything that's happened has been a shadow, or let's not show you, but you could feel. I think the best part of the moon card is that the feeling that you can feel, and it's an undercurrent, since there's a current to this card. There's that undercurrent that's pulling you to, I'm not going into that. That doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel divine. It doesn't feel human. It doesn't feel good. It feels like, and you could tell from the people who wear masks that they suppress a lot in their life. It was a great mask to hide themselves. I don't want to be seen. I think I'm ugly. So this is perfect. I have found my great suppression mask to make my ugliness worse by thinking I found a temporary solution.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Yeah. I've been wondering because I've been seeing people, they walk around and there's people still wearing masks. And I've been wondering what the fuck is going on in your head.
It has nothing to do about coronavirus. It has everything to do with how ugly they are and they're too afraid to be seen, or that it's a superhero mask for them to be able to get through things because they didn't like the feeling of other people seeing into their fucking shadow. Right? Same way a bank robber wears a mask, right? Doesn't want to be seen for what they're really doing so they can walk to the saloon the next week and not be known that it was them that robbed the bank.
Wow, that's deep.
But that's there was, go look it up, the studies. People who wear masks are ugly. I'm not kidding. It's crazy, right? Like the best looking people that it's been studied and everything, don't wear masks. They've always never been afraid. Like, what do you mean? It's not even that they're not ugly or whatever. It's just that they accept who they are. Mm-hmm. But people who have not accepted their look yet, or they think they look funny. And it was weird to me looking on Instagram and seeing the people who had the most nip tucking done to their face and fake this on their face and all that shit love to wear masks because they still aren't satisfied until next week when I can get fucking another fucking nose job and you can move my eye 15 inches over. I'll take the mask off. But until then, I'm going to keep it on.
Wow, that's going to give me a lot to think about now. Can't wait to tell my wife that because we comment on that all the time. It's like, what? Walking, I still sometimes see people driving with a mask on. And I'm glad you brought that up. That's going to give me something totally new to think about now because my mind has just been blown with my conclusion, honestly, has just been that's a Matrix bot. That's an NPC. It's got to be. But now that you mentioned that gives me a whole new path to wander down now, you know?
Yeah, because it's massive suppression that it's like, well, people can look at me that way. So it's actually the attention they've desired their whole life now. They've got it. Just it's not the frequency that they really wanted, but they're willing to take that. It's like asking for an apple pie and not even getting one from McDonald's, but getting fucking like, I can't even think of anything more. Like, well, I actually like apple pies from McDonald's. They're pretty bomb. But fucking, not even getting a pie, but just getting like here's a fucking slice of a fucking deranged, old, moldy apple. But hey, I got an apple at least. Fuck it, I'm going to keep eating that shit. And that's what's crazy is like people will want the shadow of like the moon card will be like, well, I want attention in my life. I want to be popular. Oh, you're popular. Everybody's laughing at you going down the street wearing your mask. You know what I mean? Like, you got it. There you go. And what's interesting is you always look at the car they're driving, too. It's always like the whole situation makes no sense. So there's something else going on. Now, I only know this from my old shadow. I'm willing to admit it. Like, I used to get my speed because a guy used to dress up as a fucking Mexican airmail guy that took mail from Mexico, from America, and would deliver it to people here in Orange County, and he used to dress up as a fucking mailman, and you would do the text to the pager, and he had a whole rotating new system of numbers that you would do for how much your bag was going to be, or if you're going to do a big thing, and he would drop it off your house and sign, like as if you were signing for it, and in the package was your fucking meth. So when I look at situations like that, there's also people taking advantage of this shit, acting like, you know why? Because anybody who's going to do that, even a cop's going to be like, oh, they're just a COVID freak. But really, that Asian woman, that one other person doing it is fucking trafficking some fucking situation going on. Right? It's the perfect wolf in sheep's clothing.
That is the moon card.
That is the moon card.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
The people you think they are in life, like, you always find like that one guy, that serial killer that just got caught in Long Island, New York, but he had an office in Manhattan. He was an architect. And he had a burner phone, and he fucking last time Jupiter was in Taurus right now, he went and killed a bunch of fucking prostitutes, right? They call them sex workers now. I think sex workers think that's lame. Like, I think they were like, call me a prostitute. I kind of like it. Because that means that they face their moon shit.
Yeah.
Right? That's the other thing you're seeing in society right now. No, they're not pedophiles. They're minor attracted people now.
Yeah.
That's a moon card. But what's crazy is he was an architect. He went and killed a bunch of women, and they didn't find him till a piece of pizza that he ate, which I think is even weirder, the whole pizza thing and Pizzagate shit. But fucking a piece of pizza that he ate, and the fucking DNA that they got off a piece of crust to a piece of hair that was found on the scene of a woman from years ago that they finally were able to figure it out. But that's what's so crazy is like, oh, you just think that architect's an architect? But if you look at the guy, he's this big fat guy, he fucking looks fucking like, oh yeah, like you could tell now that he's a big cop, but you don't know what he looked like last week. What was he looking like? Was he the guy always like, hey, how you doing? The shop's looking great. Good to see you. I'm going to go back doing my architect work as I architect another death.
Yeah, it doesn't work anymore. The whole image of being a good, productive member of society, that doesn't work anymore. You know, I can even remember back in the day when I was a kid, like I've had these tattoos on my arms since I was like 17. There was a lot of places that wouldn't hire me. And if I did get hired, I had to wear long sleeves.
Right.
Now you walk into Walmart and you see somebody with rainbow fucking hair, rings in their nose, tats up their neck. You know, it's just like we're moving into that age now where I think this last wave of volunteers came and is finally kicking that down. And that's good for some of us, those of us who have come through this and are breaking through. But it's not so good for the people who are still trying to fight to stay with their mask on, their proverbial mask, you know, and hide behind those illusions and suppress who they are and whatnot. Because, you know, I was telling a client today, as a matter of fact, the vibrations of the planet are getting higher and higher and higher. And you can sit back and watch. All you got to do is sit back and watch. You can see people reacting to it. You know, people like me and you, we're raising in vibration with it. We're going through the discomfort, you know, because it's not raising vibration isn't a comfortable process, but at least you know how to ride that wave. But the people who are fighting against it are losing their fucking minds, you know?
Yeah, I mean, to go back to your talk about, you know, like you look at, you couldn't get hired before.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop you, right? It's not like you made that some moon situation. Like, I have tattoos. I can't get hired. You put yourself in the tattoo world, so guess what? Like, you owned it. Like, oh, okay, I'll wear long sleeves. My brother's in the same thing. He has plugs and he's fucking full sleeves all the way and back and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a great fucking job, but he has to wear long sleeves. But it's like, whatever. So you just deal with life. Like, I'm an astrologer. Guess what? There's some places that people probably don't invite me because I'm an astrologer around. But is that going to kill me? No. But it reminds me, though, of this suppression aspect, whether it's the mask thing. But I think that the weird part, too, is like, it's okay now to express yourself only if you are trans, right? So if you're trans on the workplace and you have sleeves, because you're trans, you don't have to wear the sleeves. So that's when you know, when things start getting into that, what's the agenda? What's the mass agenda? Because that was the agenda of Germany, you know?
Population collapse.
It was that, but it was also the first people that were in the fucking concentration camps with the Jews. It was the trans. So it's like they're setting people up.
Yeah, for a population collapse in the future. I mean, I heard from someone that I won't name that the goal is for there to be no naturally born babies by 2030. No naturally born babies. They're wanting the population to collapse and fall off. So basically, the humans that are alive on the planet right now, once they die, they won't be replaced. That's the goal. That's the plan. Why the fuck else would they be trying to program little kids to be gay? Why else would they be pushing this trans and gay shit on everybody? Because they don't want humans procreating.
No.
It's very simple.
And they also want them to be controlling who can, because Alex Jones just interviewed the woman that's bringing all this stuff out this weekend. And they believe that they're going to be this aristocratic very top, and whoever works for them will be their servants. And then they only need 10% of the population to do the technicals and run the problems with the machines and the robots and shit like that, and everybody else will be gone. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really weird too, is like this pod life. They even just brought out a movie that's going to come out about the future and having babies in pods, right?
Yep.
And like, if you really think about it, like that's like where things are at right now, where it makes no sense, especially since I'm very fortunate to at least be here. Sophia's gonna be 37 weeks pregnant this week, and we're about to have a baby in the next 3 weeks. And as all this has been coming out, people are like, aren't you scared? I'm like, no, I'm more scared for people that have waited too long and their options in the future, especially just going through this process. We've heard of more people having pregnancy problems, so many stillbirths, so many fucking miscarriages. And unfortunately, a lot of those people took the shot. And it sucks because it's like you already have that working against everybody. And now you have this on top that, you know, we're already as a population in America, 1.8, I think is the average now, when we need to sustain as a society is at like 2.2, 2.3. We're already below the mark. So they already are on that space. And then the XX deaths around the world right now have just been popping. And it's all in the countries that took the shot. That's what's so weird. That average 10 to 15% excess mortality, which doesn't make sense. So we're at a game now where it's like the moon card to me has reached the next level, where it's like, sure, the highest level being we don't know why we're here as humans or what the fuck the whole situation is, or even, is this Earth or what we think Earth is or whatever. But it goes deeper now to where it's like the world that we live in, there's already like a check mark on all these people are dying. And nobody's having kids anymore. And then they're not allowing it. And then they're pushing all this other shit. So it's like the biggest wolf in sheep clothing is that inclusive or equity, right? When they say equity, what's the first line of equity that's always used? How much equity do you have in your house? How much equity do you have in your bank with how much money you have? It's you're a product now. So when they're saying this is about equity, it's about making all the humans, which already were equity products, but saying it out loud. They can't handle they're not willing to suppress their darkness anymore. They've just thrown it out in front of people, and then people are accepting it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they've had that plan for, 50, 60 years now. I mean, probably longer than that. But, I mean, after World War II, the Nazis didn't lose. No. They came to America and rebranded.
And Russia, yeah.
Yeah, in Russia. And they just said, okay, well, we're going to fucking try it again. But they, like I said that one time, they don't mind waiting 50 years to brainwash us. They don't mind that. They are patient. And I will even go way out on a limb. Call me crazy. I'll go way out on a limb and say that a lot of these people, especially the people controlling the world, are not of this planet. And they've been alive for thousands of years. So they don't mind. Fucking 50, 60 years, that's a blink of an eye to them. So they can sit and wait generation after generation after generation and very strategically hammer beliefs into our heads and brainwash us generation after generation until now enough of the population is fucking stupid enough to where we can just put it right out in their face and they'll accept it. You know?
Yeah, it's like cancer rates. It's like just watch just over the last 50 years, just like, you know, prior 50 years ago, cancer was like hearing that somebody just fucking died because of having too much oxygen by walking or something, or by being struck by lightning. But what's crazy is turbo cancer is real, and it's just happening, bam, every week, every month, it's just like boom, 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 right? So it's like some people are like, well, I got the shot and everything's fine. It's like, okay, yeah, but it just came out. Peter McCullough just put it out, all the info of like, and Florida's about to come out and drop the biggest bomb of all time, that it's a bioweapon, that it's always been. The shot was a bioweapon.
Oh.
It's official news. It came out. So, yeah, SV440. Thanks, Joe, in the chat. So SV40's in the shot, and that causes cancer. So it's like, that's what's happening in babies. Why are babies at 1.5 after being born, right after the shot, 1.5 years, 2 years old, getting cancer?
Yeah.
There's nothing else that you can connect it to. And that's the moon card's hard because all the dark shit has to come out.
Yeah.
And I think this is such a tough card, and why I think a lot of tarot people just kind of like, just say it's, I don't know, just like a whatever moment, or it's, there's some There's, it's funny when you watch somebody talk about this card because they'll be like, oh, yeah, there's some weird shit going on here.
I've done that.
And we all have, but I'm just saying that, like, when you really take the time to look at it, this is the card that triggers the most, right? Because it's like, I don't want to hear about all that shit. I want to suppress that. That's the meaning of the card. I don't want to hear all that shit.
Yeah.
Some people just want to live in that bliss of like, no, I just want to only hear the good stuff and love will win in the end. It's like, yeah, that's what we lead by. But you lead with love to have the courage to see what is not love. Mm-hmm. Right? So, like, there is no love if you're only loving what is bad. Two. That's the hard part is like, sorry, but when people are fucking doing the worst shit on the planet and you're just accepting it in the name of love, that means that you have now chosen the frequency of love to create evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why you do not love evil. So if you want to use a Christian example, it's like, I'm going to love the devil too. Really? Go talk to Doreen Virtue about that one.
Well, they don't want people operating from a place of true love, self-love. And I've had clients tell me this kind of stuff before where it's like, well, this person's been cheating on me for the past 5 years, but I'm afraid to walk away because I don't feel like that will be acting out of love. And I'm like, whoa. No. You are not obligated to deplete yourself in the name of others. That's the whole brainwashing, mind twisting that they've been doing, is it's for others. Same thing with the mask. Wear the mask for others. Get the shot for others, And it's like, no. True love is love of the self. To really be operating from a place of love means I have too much love for myself than to allow myself to be treated like that. I have too much respect for my vibration than to allow for certain people to come into my auric field.
Yeah, so it's always love then. That's the irony, is it's love within yourself.
Yes.
And that's the whole thing. Because if it's all about other people, well, you're not loving yourself by having all the bacteria in your mouth. And, most of those people wear the same mask all the fucking time. They just keep breathing in all the shit that you're trying to get rid of by fucking brushing your teeth every day. And it's like, and your spit and all that shit. And fucking, even when you're going in the way in the road and all the fucking smoke and everything that's coming, you're like, oh, yeah, let me just keep breathing it in more. Okay, that's really nice. And I'm just going to inject myself with I don't know what, but, we know that it is a bioweapon on that stuff. We know that there's radiation from the sun doing crazy thing. We know there's fucking aliens out there. And you're going to do it right in the middle of finding all this out. You're going to be like, just sign me up. I can't even find anything that doesn't have a description unless it's a blank piece of paper. I don't have a blank piece of paper around here to even fucking show. At least this is an Indiana Jones copy of the book and the fucking going to the fucking Last Crusade. At least this isn't fake. At least they even give me like the fucking page notes and shit. They didn't even give you that on that thing. Nothing. You just had to trust an 80-year-old man who can't even say his name and doesn't even know his wife or his sister.
Yeah.
And which one? And doesn't even realize he has a 7th grandchild.
Yeah. That's fucked up, man.
Think about that. That you accepted that.
Well, I mean, I can kind of relate in a way because, embarrassingly enough, well, I guess it's not too bad, but I got the swine flu vaccine. Back then, I didn't know anything about any of this shit. So they're saying swine flu. And I've never been really the type to get a flu shot. I think I may have gotten one in my life, but I've just always been really not afraid of germs and sickness and illness. I think I just did it to shut my grandpa up. You should get that swine flu vaccine. You should get that vaccine. So I went and got it. I did. Now, looking back, I'm thinking, oh shit.
What a different technology, though. It was the old school way of using eggs and throwing a dead virus in with eggs and mercury and some other shit and just like having the dead virus, the whole virus, be injected in your body. This was taking the spike protein off a fucking actual lab-created virus and using a technology that goes into the proteins of your fucking cells and latches on top of your cells and mass produces in quantity the spike protein that's on top of the actual virus and does not bring the actual root to it to try and like counter it and keeps multiplying and goes throughout every cell in your body and chooses areas where your cells are the most weak and take advantage of that space and cause clotting to fucking the most worst shit you've ever heard in the world and doesn't stop replicating.
You know what's fucked up?
They said it would stop replicating, but that doesn't.
Yeah. You know what's fucked up though? I think they would have had more success with this little plan of theirs if they would have just went ahead and done it back then. Because I have an idea that may have just been a little experiment, you know, swine flu or whatever, just to test and see. But if they would have just gone ahead and done it then, they would have had a lot more success with wiping out the population. You know, instead of waiting until everybody has one of these in their hand and access to information, and they kind of overplayed their hand a little bit, you know?
Not really, because, you know, over 70% of the world took that shit.
Well, I think it would have been closer to 100% if they would have done it like 10 years ago. I think. I could be wrong. I don't know.
I mean, that's what we'll find out, I think, in the years to come of the genetic mutation they've done in other ways to our food sources or other things like that.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that, you know, when we say there's a death shot from the sun, right? That's the term for a big mass ejection, a coronal mass ejection that would affect the Earth and take out all of our power, which would then, the nuclear power plants that are run on generators could only run for probably 3 days, and then there would be no more power, and then all that nuclear waste would then fucking not be cooled anymore, and then we'd have massive nuclear explosions around the planet. We'd all die. It's the same thing, though, because the sun started acting up right at 2020 and made its flip, and the astrology got crazy and everything. And I've always said that the wolf in sheep clothing is there was no virus. So they created the idea of one and made people get this shit to get them out because they know something else. Whether it's, and I don't think it's like a negative alien attack as much as I actually think it's more of they know that the sun's going to do its death shot and they've set people up for when that happens. When you fuck with your DNA and the frequency of it, guess what? When solar rays and especially cosmic rays, which people should look up more, that are coming from outside our solar system into here because there's so many mass explosions of other stars happening and their fucking cosmic rays affecting us here on Earth, that when the death shot actually comes, then they already gave the death shot to people to not be able to evolve with the frequencies that come naturally from the universe.
Oh, is that the solar flash?
Yeah, that's from our own sun, but there's cosmic rays that come from outside our solar system that are hitting our Earth right now. Then there's solar that comes from our own sun.
Well, I mean, like I've heard lots of people talk about there's supposed to be a big solar flash or something, and even in like ancient texts and prophecies that have prophesied for there to be a big solar flash, and it happens once every I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of years.
It would be a nova on our sun that we hear about supernova, but a nova event would be the magnetism on our sun is like, you know, static electricity. Imagine the planet, our solar system, and even from outside our solar system, there's all this electromagnetic energy. And so our sun gets to a place where it can only handle so much, and then it fucking novas, so it just releases all the energy. And when that happens, and it's happened in time, it's usually about every 12,000 years, just it releases all the fucking electromagnetic energy, right? Just it gets to a point where the sun is suppressed enough. Can't handle any more of your guys' fucking electromagnetic shit. There's enough static electricity. I'm using that as an example. It's not static, but it's fucking the natural electricity that comes from all the planets and all the revolutions around, right? If you go around on the carpet long enough, you're going to create enough static electricity. When you finally touch something, it's going to fucking shock. That on a massive event is a nova event from the sun, and that would be the grand flash. That would be a flash from the sun. That would wipe, it would be instantaneous too. It would just go poof and hit all the planets in our solar system. But that's happening in other solar systems, and we're getting that. Then imagine when ours happens.
Well, honestly, if you really want to dig the rabbit hole up, and we're gonna dig deep on this one.
Yeah.
When that happens, on one timeline, it's gonna wipe the Earth out.
Right.
On another timeline, 5D, 6D, 7D.
I agree.
You know, so I don't know how deep into that.
No, I mean, think about it. That's the only way to shift a timeline in the scientific, spiritual, natural form, right? Would be to where the sun, which is a projector of this reality, without the sun, there would be nothing. We wouldn't see anything, right? It's if you're in real darkness and there's no sun out and there's no moon out, you can't see in front at all, right? All you can see is stars, but you can't see if you'll walk in the woods and be like, oh my God, I just ran into a tree. Mm-hmm. So the sun is projecting the actual physical, what we see with our five senses and all that shit. If that projector finally changes the slide, to me, that's a massive slide change, because I feel all the suns are connected, right? That they're all distributing like a television, the realities, that the reality would shift itself. Mm-hmm. Depending on where, but that's the death shot. We want you to stay in this. We're going to live forever and create all these fucking crazy Hydra ideas and make you live forever in this weird world that's really the one that doesn't evolve to the next one. That's what they want. Mm-hmm. And keep mass producing you in labs, in pods. And people aren't ready for that shit, or they're not ready. And at least if you go follow Dr. Peter McCullough, they have finally been doing the research. If you did take the death shot, in order for you to start finding, and it's so funny, he says, the most unnatural thing ever done to humanity is we're finding ways to get rid of it out of people through natural things, like weird things out of pineapples, weird things out of all these other things that they've created these fucking natural pathways to start getting it to where your body can actually start to shed that shit out.
That's good. Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not over. That's the whole if you're willing to face it, though, if you're somebody who's still in denial, like when you're fucking at your worst moment of your drug life and you're just like, I'm going to still do the line, I don't care, right? That's totally a moon card moment when you're not facing it. But when you finally look at yourself in the mirror and you look at your eyes when you're fucking popped out of your skull and you just did fucking an 8-ball with Hunter Biden in the White House. And you're looking over it, and Joe Biden's like, you need to shit your pants. It's okay. Just shit in them. Right? And you're like, damn, Hunter, where'd you get that coke? I don't know if I could ever stop this. Or you're one of those crazy sick pedophiles like that one guy who just got found. He was a school teacher here in America, in Tennessee, who fucking left his phone at a restaurant. They went on the fucking thing, and it was just videos of all these kids and girls that were from like 9 to fucking 17 that he was fucking drugging and raping. You don't get to a place like that if you face yourself and you look at yourself and you reflect on yourself and be like, why am I doing this right now? Why am I in the White House with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden doing his blow? It might be good blow, but I don't want to be this person. Yeah. But that's the hard part, is people don't want to accept, well, I took the shot. I know that, look at what's happening. There's enough evidence, goddammit. Like, it's insane. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not scary as if you admit, shit, I fucked up. The universe provides the people and the energy to get you through it. That's the beautiful part about this world that we live on, that people seem to always forget. It's like, yes, dropping the truth bombs hurt, but the truth bombs always come with results and ways when you face it. It's like, you go look up Dr. Peter McCullough right now. He has all these different fucking things that they are selling for super cheap. They're not trying to rape you. They literally could fucking start getting it. And they have clinical trials that they're doing, and they're going to be putting it out officially to help the world. But of course, that's a hard thing when they don't want you to take vitamins anymore. They just want you to take non-natural shit to counter whatever the fuck they make themselves. Fucking crazy.
Yeah, they even have. I think I read something where they're labeling people who eat healthy and go to the gym
as right-wingers,
as extreme right-wingers with fat phobia. And you know what I say? You goddamn right I'm fat phobic. Right. You goddamn right. You ain't gonna shame me with that bullshit. I've been fat. Yeah. I'm fucking terrified of getting fat again.
Right.
I want to get a shirt that says fat phobic and proud of it. Yeah. You're fucking right I'm fat phobic. That's a good thing to be phobic.
With a picture of you fat on it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean they use all these that word phobic is like a little slanderous term that it's supposed to shame you, you know? Like, have you ever met somebody with a phobia? I had arachnophobia my whole life. If you saw me face to face with a spider, I would scream like a little 6-year-old girl. 6'1", fucking 220-pound man screaming like a little girl because of a spider. That's a phobia. That's a phobia. Not wanting to see two men having sex. That's not a phobia, you know? Right. But they're using that to try to shame you into accepting their ideology. So, you know, whenever you call me a fat, that doesn't shame me. I'm fucking fat phobic as hell. You goddamn right I am. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't think that phobias necessarily have to be bad things. They're moments like when I was agoraphobic, right? Like I couldn't leave my condo because my panic disorder got so bad. It was in those moments of me writing in my journal. That's all I had. And you want to talk about a moon card, a hanged man, and I don't know, a tower moment and a death card all at the same time. I was like, I remember being ready to have God take me to fucking 5D at that moment. And it didn't happen because I didn't try to force it. It was like, I guess God ain't taking me. And it made me face, okay, let me go face why am I feeling this way? And it was that last moment that got me to the level to where I'm at today of like, even though I was doing this work for like 5 years at that moment, it was like, oh my God, that was the last moment to get to me where I'm comfortable doing this work every day without being like going through the anxiety or the panic of this shit and having to talk it out, which I've talked it out for 8+ years in therapy every week, which that's not easy, but it's fucking. So sometimes having the phobia of something like agoraphobia where you can't leave your house, and you see that a lot in the spiritual community. People become very entrenched in where they want to feel safe when really, you know, sometimes those places of where we feel safe can be really bad.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you're a light worker.
Yeah.
If you're a light worker, sorry, you ain't supposed to be buried in a corner by yourself. You're supposed to be out there mingling with people.
Yeah.
That's been my biggest thing for the past few years because I'm very introverted off camera. I'm very introverted and quiet, and I don't like people. So I love just being by myself at the house, you know, but I know that my job, I'm a volunteer. I emit a different frequency. It's my job to go mingle with as many people as I can. So, you know.
Yeah, and I think there's a good balance. I think you need that alone time in life. I like it too, but it's like, I always feel I feel the best when I'm mingling and I laugh and I'm able to talk with people and talk about subjects, stuff like this, and then have some alone time and then be with people. Like it's a healthy balance. Like that's where it's finding that. And I think that, you know, you can if you sit in water for too long, you get wrinkles. Your whole body wrinkles up. There's a reason why. We're not supposed to be in the water that long. If you stay away from people so long, then you become the weirdo that's looking through the fucking. That is not normal, and that's the same thing that a crackhead does, or somebody that's on, you know, coke. Which they finally have done the studies. If you do cocaine, that 78% of people that do coke, doesn't matter if you've done it forever or your first time, that there's a 78% chance that you're going to go into minor schizophrenic moments. That's why people are the cops here? Like, you know what I mean? There's no cops. It's normal. Everything's fine. Same thing with marijuana, too. Marijuana is actually up to like 90%.
Shit, I could see that.
You know? I remember when I was 16, 15, fucking smoking weed. I remember fucking being at my dad's house and he was gone for the weekend. I threw a party there and I fucking hit the bong and I fucking, for that first 3 hours, was looking out the window like, are the fucking cops here?
Yeah.
Tripping the fuck out. So it's kind of weird that I think that a lot of people don't realize they don't have to be on a substance in order to trip the fuck out. You could suppress your life so much in so many areas that you trip the fuck out in the wrong ways. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah, I've been battling with that pretty much my whole life. But again, what it all comes down to with this right here is that facing it, because, and going back to what I always talk about, the problem is what you just said. We always want to run to feel safe when the whole objective of being a human is to learn how to lean into and embrace discomfort. And they have programmed us so successfully to run for comfort and run to feel safe that that's all they need to grab you up and control you. And going through that moon card awakening, facing your shadow self, it's only uncomfortable in the moment. It's kind of like working out. You know, when you go in and you bust out a workout, it only hurts while you're doing it, but when you're done, you're like, yeah, I feel good. It's very similar.
It's very similar. I think especially it could even feel better when you finally get over that thing that you've been holding on to within yourself and you release it and you face it. That's better, I think, than the feeling of anything in life. It's in many ways like people are ready to pop because of how much they fucking push down within them. Mm-hmm. And that's why I kind of came up with this card, because you were telling me about your new gym at your house and working out. And then I was just thinking, and you were like, yeah, you know, and when, life, you just deal with it. I'm like, yeah, because it does help. But there's only the moon card shit that is, it doesn't matter if you work out, you say prayers, you do meditation, you do all these things, you be around moon circles with your girlfriends, and you hang out with your buddies and shove fucking pizza sauce up your butt and say you're having a period. That, at the end of the day, there's some stuff that you are pushing down that you're going to have to face. There's no escaping it. There's no ritual to get rid of it. The only ritual there is to face it.
Yeah.
That's why I thought it was an interesting card, because you made me just think of that, of like, I don't know why. It was just like, oh man, that's just what I feel like there's so many people going through. Especially, that's what's hard about the moon card, is it's always the gradual, continual, like hearing about Ukraine all the time. It's made people just accept, like, I guess they're giving money, and even though we're all pissed and all that, but it's like, I guess we're just waiting for them. They've got it to where we're ready for the nuke to go off. We're ready for something to go bad. So that's how they do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All in the name of being good. And you're going to sacrifice your food. You're going to sacrifice your gas. You're going to sacrifice your natural gas. You're going to sacrifice heating your home. You're going to sacrifice living a good life to help a bunch of people that take the money and buy cocaine with it. You better accept that shit too. And I'm talking about Zelensky in Ukraine. You can go look it up.
I mean, when it comes to the whole Russia-Ukraine thing, to be 100% honest, like, I have paid so little attention to it that I couldn't even give you an opinion on it. That, like, I heard back when it very first started from some sources that I trust, honestly, that, I mean, at the end of the day, the only thing it's really about is going and dismantling the bioweapon labs, right, and rescuing the children. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But then the mainstream media is going to twist it into some bullshit. Right. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, well, so I don't even honestly know what the news is telling people about it. I feel like
the other half of it too is Putin is the first dictator, if you were to call him a dictator, to decouple the dollar and oil, right? So Saddam Hussein tried, they killed him.
Ah.
Right? So you start looking at like the people in the past that have tried to decouple the dollar from oil. They go after him for no reason. They make up a reason. 9/11 is Saddam Hussein's fault. Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever's going on is Putin's fault, but he actually has successfully done that now, right? Like, especially look at BRICS right now and gold standard and right. So it's like they're getting to the point where they're ready to go after him. So it's not even about Ukraine, right? It's like 9/11 again. It's like, how is Ukraine about Putin when we were on Russia's borders as NATO and trying to fuck with shit? And he was on his own border, and we're saying that that's wrong. You can't be on your own border with your own military troops. That's how it started. Remember, it's like,
kinda.
That's how it started, was us screaming at Putin for having people on his own troops on his own border. Right? When he called out, and you can watch the 2021 interviews of him on NBC, which was actually amazing to watch, because he called out America like, we're right next to each other with Alaska, and do you think that I tell you all stop having troops in Alaska when we're so close? I don't say shit unless you cross into my airspace, but you guys won't do that, and I won't do that to you. We know that would trigger this whole fucking Cold War all over again. But why tell me, because it's on the other side of the world when you're not even there? You're telling me what to do with my troops on my own border? I'm not crossing over into there. If anything, you with NATO are getting involved with a country that is ours. It was the USSR, and that never became a sovereign country. You guys won't even accept it into NATO. So if you really think about it on a deep thing, it's like, oh, and then he used this. I think Zelensky's part of the show. I think that he's a double agent. I think that he looks like he's for the independence of Ukraine. He was installed, let's not forget. Who was he installed by? If he was a double agent, America and NATO, oh, okay, but he really works for Putin, and then we've been funneling all this money through there to supposedly, and then just giving it to Putin and letting him do what he wants and looks like the actor that he is, and that's total Russian trick right there, 101. I'm surprised that, I think they know about it. I just think they're just like a good way to funnel money. Do trafficking, do sex and drug trafficking, all of it in one. So.
I'm just ready for it to all be over. Hopefully it's starting to become easy because it's so simple. I think if the media says this person is bad, they're good. If the fact checkers say that this is false, it's true. It's so simple. And I'm ready for it to just be done and over with. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, it's such a headache listening to all that bullshit, man. But I guess that's what we signed up for, coming to this damn planet.
Yeah, and in many ways too, we have to face it all. So that's I think the hard part of life, you know. So, but I think that's the positive thing at the end of this show is to remember that there's always, if you face something, a route for you. There's no route when you don't face it. Mm-hmm. And that's only shit that you have to face with inside. It's the card where you have to look deeper. If the money problem's happening, is your relationship good? If it's a new relationship, you know, like, or, you know, or what did you change in your, that's the first thing a doctor will say is like, what did you change? Why are you having this now? Like, why are you allergic to this? I don't know. Everything's the same. Oh, I tried that new lotion. There it is. You know, it's always a subconscious thing that you forget. So the moon card, the simple way to look at it is like that. When you have an allergy, what did you shift? What did you change? What's not really working good? You know, that's always, I think, the big thing to look at, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then the positive part is, why is this tough? Oh, am I evolving up and I've been staying on the same course that's been positive and it's up-leveling me and I have to let go of the old way it was in order to up-level? I think that's the two parts to weigh down, because whenever this card's reversed, I always said this is straight repressed, just completely not even wanting to look, already locked inside, I will never look there. Or somebody's holding the deepest secret of all time that they will keep till death. You know?
I usually look at it when it's reversed. I usually kind of look at that like a secret's coming out. Is that a way that, or maybe somebody's getting caught, possibly?
Yeah, probably that they never thought that they would.
Yeah.
You know? But I always looked at it because the scorpion is going back into the water. It's not coming out. That it's like, no, this person doesn't want to come out at all. Or I think it's exactly what you said, though. It's like, this person's going to get caught. They just don't know it yet. Yeah. They think that their burner phone or all their fucking defenses are fucking perfect, and they didn't realize the whole time that you were really talking to that person that's best friends with your lover through college at that other place, and they just made the connection as we're doing the reading. You know? Something like that. I don't know. Or Joe Biden's mask isn't working right now, so they're going to just try and stitch one up together, and it's going to fall off, and you're going to see the Terminator underneath that thing, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever it might be.
Good stuff.
Well, yeah, it was a good one. Much love to you all. Make sure that you check out Rich Lopp's channel. Link is down below. Of course, I'm DJing on Saturday. You can check that out with Mark Farina. Saturn Masterclass, and then I'm doing that big event with Coyote Star Astrology Friday. So a lot of stuff going on. You got anything going on?
No, not really.
You got readings, and you got a lot of shows. And I was just telling, with the South Node now in Libra for the next 18 months, and this Venus retrograde coming in Leo, when it comes to love, it's going to be the most extreme, dramatic changes and shifts we've ever seen in our lives. So thank God we have Rich Lopp to fucking handle the fucking, what's the outcome, what's the situation, what's fucking going down.
Yeah, I'm here.
I know.
That's my job.
I know. And I was telling Rich, I'm like, oh, these nodes are going to make you feel so much better. Especially as an Aquarius. North Node in Taurus is all fourth house, just dealing with personal life shit and the work not going the way you want to fully. It's all, it's over.
Cool. Well, that's what we're here for.
Yep. All right, everyone. Talk to y'all soon. Adios.
Attention, please.
Yo. Okay.
Attention,